What's up, everybody? It's Matthew Newman, aka Mr. Catch on Fire, and the I Just Want to Record podcast. Come kick back and enjoy conversations with folks about the complex and, yes, sometimes mundane intricacies of life, all meant to inspire you.
Cedric Holloman, people should know who you are. Who are you?
Well, let's see. Let's give you a little bit of background first. Right now, I'm a retirement planning specialist. I work with Executive Retirement Solutions. I'm going to be expanding here in California. I'm going to be expanding into Texas soon with a new company called Future Financial Concepts. But my background is technical, STEM related. I have a degree in electrical engineering from Southern University. Started my career out in the military electronics field.
Southern University. Everybody got to know who Southern University.
I got to plug Southern University.
Yes.
Jaguars. So at the time, they were one of the leading producers of engineers in the United States, African-American engineers. There were only 6 schools at that time. When I graduated, you could get an engineering degree from HBCU, and we were one of those 6. So those 6 schools produced like 25% of the engineers working at the time.
Wow.
So I came out to Los Angeles to work for Hughes Aircraft Company. At the time, Hughes was the largest California employer back in the 80s. They don't exist anymore. They've been bought out and all that sort of thing. But at the time, that was the largest California employer. That was Howard Hughes's company. And they were a major provider of military electronics to the government, right? A big subcontractor to the other contractors. So I worked with them for about 6 years. Then, the corporate America thing just started kind of grating on me a little bit. I started learning things about corporate America that I didn't like. And I had a fraternity brother who was working in the insurance business. And he talked about, the corporate pyramid, basically, where, you got all these people at the bottom doing all the work, middle managers in the middle. At the top, you got the CEOs, who are basically making all the money. And unfortunately, whenever there's a problem with the company, the CEOs don't downsize themselves, or the middle managers, they get rid of the people at the bottom. So when the Berlin Wall came down, I'm sort of dating myself, but they started cutting military electronics and got laid off. But fortunately, I had started working part-time in the insurance business with a company called A.L. Williams at the time, eventually became Primerica Financial Services. Quickly after leaving the company, with the layoff, I became a vice president with the company, worked for them for about 16 years, where I actually, did insurance, term insurance mostly, mutual funds, variable annuities, those sort of things. And did some mortgage business also. I started learning the real estate business a little bit back then. So then I left and went into real estate, decided to go into real estate for a while. So I worked with a company called Capital Executive Realty, capital loan specialist for a couple of years, where I learned the real estate and loan business. And that went well until the financial crisis in 2008.
Jeez.
Everything went left.
Jeez.
And you had to start learning short sales and all this sort of thing. So eventually I decided to go back to the insurance business with Executive Retirement Solutions. But I wanted to go into a certain way where I just specialized in helping people prepare for their futures. And that's when I started learning about, Index Universal Life. And it's first we used it as a supplement for people who had 401ks, but I found out over time, after I researched it, actually spent time with it, actually worked with real clients, that actually it turns out it's probably a better program for them to prepare for retirement in the long run. And that's because of the tax advantages that you get when it's time to take the money out. You have access to your money while it's growing. And of course, you get insurance with living benefits involved. Just recently, I went and spent a weekend with the Alzheimer's Association here in Los Angeles, and they were dealing with the Black and brown community, how there's a higher prevalence for Alzheimer's in our community. Well, if you have this policy, it helps you pay for a lot of services that you need. They were talking about the resources, but all the resources cost money. A lot of them cost money. So this is something to help you prepare for those sort of things that qualified plans with the IRS don't do. So that's kind of a quick thumbnail background on me. I'm also a licensed minister. I accepted a call to preach the gospel in the early 2000s, went through ministerial preparation training at Faithful Central Bible Church. After about 2 years of a gut-wrenching preparation by a gentleman named Darnell Holmes, I was licensed by him and Bishop Kenneth Homer at Faithful Central.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack. I'm gonna go.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
I'm gonna go back and we're gonna build up. It's interesting to even talk about your call because one of our last guests, we talked about all of the business aspects and then end up closing on the faith, the belief. So we'll more than likely end that in there and talk a little bit more about that. But something you pulled out was that Southern is a school known for making engineers. Is that correct?
At that time, and they still are, right.
And then you got North Carolina A&T,
right,
that produces a lot of them. But your background is electrical engineering, computer programming, and all of that great stuff. Tell us a little bit about what those experiences taught you. Like, what were the greatest experiences or life lessons, whether it was in corporate, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whatever, that the specific roles within electrical engineering and computer programming taught you?
Well, more discipline and orderly thinking than anything else, right? So back at that time, engineers didn't program. And that's something I had a kind of gravitated toward, right? Because I wasn't a designer. I wasn't designing anything. I became a test engineer for the company when we tested our boards that went into the different things that we were producing. And some of that was military avionics for jets, or it was something for submarines, just things like that. Whatever Hughes was producing, they were producing components for other contractors that they were going to build the end product. Well, that stuff had to be tested. So I learned how to run the test equipment, but they needed someone to write programs to test the different things. So that's when I started learning assembly language programming with microprocessors. That's the lowest level of programming you can do. Most software people who are hearing this, they'll know that they don't want to deal with that kind of programming because it's very math intensive. And that's another thing, at Southern, when you're an engineering major, you basically fall into a math minor because you have to take so much mathematical courses, calculus, differential equations, all that sort of thing. So just learning that, and, I followed up with that. I went to UCLA, learned microprocessor engineering there. I worked on a master's at USC in computer engineering, same kind of thing. Now I'm learning higher level languages. So there's just the orderly thinking. You have to learn how to, think logically and solve a problem, right? So there's a problem and you have this, it has to be coded out. You got to write out what it takes to get this problem solved. And then you got to figure out how to code it up to actually make it work. And then test it over and over again to try to make it break. It's going to break most of the time up front. And then you got to fix the problems. All the people who are in computer science who actually code know this is the process you go through. So I think it taught me that. And then, of course, in corporate America, it taught me you have to work with other people. You got to interface. And, some of these people, they don't have to listen to you. They are peers. And they, you have to figure out how to work with people to get them to do what you need them to do for you. And then, of course, you have to return the favor, do what they need for them so, they can be successful. So those are some of the things you learn. Also, you learn politics, unfortunately. That's the part I didn't like. And that's what probably one of the things that got me soured on corporate America was the politics. I looked at, there was a gentleman there at the time when I was working at Hughes Aircraft. I was part of the Los Angeles Council of Black Professional Engineers. And so there was a guy who had been there. He was maybe, he had a master's he graduated from MIT. He had a master's, I think, from Stanford or something like that. And he was only one level above me. And I'm like, and I got to get a master's and work here 5 more years before I just get to the next level. I mean, that seems like, so that kind of, I didn't like that either. You had to make more money. It was going to kind of be difficult to kind of do that.
Of course. It's like make more money, not only go into debt because you got to get the degrees to make more money, but that's the common thing too. For me, go right ahead. I'll tell.
Well, at the time, Hughes was paying for the master, so that
okay. So it was paid for. So it's
like to go to USC, it was going to be too expensive. It wasn't like going to HBCU; it was a lot more expensive. So Hughes was willing to foot the bill to a certain point. Let's put it that way.
There was something that you shared too about the way corporate America works in, let's say, evolution, progression, etc. Did you say that you were laid off or fired?
I was laid off.
So I have a similar story. So my similar story was I actually just shared this in a meeting yesterday with a couple of fraternity brothers. They had no idea, but I was let go from my very first job after college. And I was only 9 months into the job. And that's when my story begins. I always tell people this if I'm ever being interviewed anywhere. But the significance of that is it taught me that, one, you're not safe. You're not safe in entrepreneurship, but you're not safe in corporate America for sure, because you have someone else pulling the strings on your destiny, which is the crazy part. And for me, they gave me the ultimatum. The ultimatum was you can make 10 sales or in 30 days, or you will be fired. 10 sales in 30 days or you will be fired. And I didn't make 10 sales before that time.
Right.
So I sure wasn't going to make 10 sales in 30
Who
days.
did you work for?
I worked for a known alternative newswire. An alternative newswire is a newspaper that is high in classified ads, high in retail ads. That my role was to go out and sell ads to attorneys and restaurants, etc., in this alternative newswire. They have 9 papers across the country. I won't even say the name for the sake of recording, but nonetheless, it's an alternative newswire, very prominent in Dallas. If you're in the entertainment, you want to know nightlife, etc., you will go to that paper, whether it's the digital product or the actual hard copy product. And the publisher her and I are still connected to this day. She actually is a client from time to time with my yard care, the whole 9, but I still remember that lesson, that this means that all the years that I've devoted to school, not just college, but all of the years we've been trained so long to go get a job. But when I got the job, I got fired. So to me, that was a very detrimental time to where that's where it taught me the significance of now going back to teach other people that we have to do our best to control our destiny. And for you, it seems like that's what you did when you realized that corporate wasn't for you per se. You went and you were already working part-time in insurance and you kept that going. So it leads me into this question now is when it comes to a thing that you're focused on now is this retirement planning aspect. Why is retirement planning so important to you? Do you find that it's most important because of older folks who don't have adequate savings? Or is it most important to you because maybe they're small business owners or younger people who don't have adequate savings?
Okay, well, before we go to that, I want to make sure I put this in about that corporate pyramid, we're going to call it.
Yes.
So remember, corporations have money coming in, they have money going out.
Yep.
So they're trying to maximize the income, minimize the outgo so they can make a profit.
Yeah.
So the question is, where do the people fall on the balance sheet? Are we on the income side or the outgo side? What would you say?
Well,
we're on the income side or the outgo side?
Outgo side.
We're on the outgo side
Yeah.
because we're benefits, their benefits, their salaries, right? So security numbers, all the stuff they have to do. So now whenever the corporation is not making as much money, the people become expendable. So this is the capitalistic problem that we have in America. Yeah, America's a great country, free enterprise and all that stuff, but there's a dark side to it, and that's the dark side. Now to get to your...
Wait, I have a question. Okay. So if the people are becoming expense, right? Because the people are on the outgoing, apparently they're not helping to make money.
Well, they are. But when the companies see things outside the company may cause them
Societal factors.
The economy, just take the pandemic.
Yep.
You had supply chain issues when the pandemic happened, so they weren't moving goods and services through the port. Well, that affected people's jobs. That affected retail because they're not getting product. So that didn't have anything to do with the employees. They said, well, that's not my fault. Well, we're going to get rid of you anyway.
Yeah, because they always have to, though, right? I know this is going away from a different direction.
That's okay. It's okay.
But should the employees? Let's go to the emotional side. If I have to get rid of someone because societal factors
or business factors,
is it still fair to attribute it to capitalism?
Well, that's the system you're involved in that's causing that issue, right? That's our system.
So how do we teach the employee not to be upset with the employer?
You can't. You just got to let them know this is how things work. Now, here's the only issue. The only issue is there's some companies that are willing to not let people go just to keep the business going because they're trying to they want you to be loyal to them, but they don't want to be loyal to you.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Now I'm not a socialist. Let's get that straight up front.
Yeah.
However, if you have a CEO that's making millions and millions of dollars, just maybe a couple of percentages of his income could take care of 10 employees, maybe.
All right. Is the $1 million I love this, by the way. Is the $1 million coming from that business? What if that CEO is a real estate?
Where's it coming from?
He's an investor.
We're talking about the corporate.
Got it. So at that company,
investor now.
All right.
Okay, so you should segueing into something else.
All right.
You can go there, but this is not what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about this pyramid.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So so that's just my feeling. Why are you worth all of that money? Because you do what? You make the stockholders happy and all that stuff. But what about the people? The people that did the work for you to make the money to do what you have to do. So it's a fine line that a CEO or CFO has to walk.
Yeah.
They want to make as much money as they can, but then they forget where they came from. You used to be one of these people.
Yeah.
Now, some people, they grandfathered in, their family, they came from money.
Yeah.
But a lot of CEOs don't come from money, but they forget where they came from afterwards. So that's just, move on to something else. Since you brought it up, I'm just giving you, so I saw what was going on in corporate America. And I just, and unfortunately, the fraternity brother who talked to me about this stuff, he probably poisoned my mind because he was already out there doing his thing and doing well. So, and then once I got out, I saw all these other people I didn't know about. I didn't know about real estate brokers and the money they made. I didn't know about all these independent people like you who are entrepreneurs doing all these things. All I knew was corporate. You go to school, get an education, get a job. That's it. We were like little widgets.
Yep.
I said, well, there's a whole bunch of people that's not widgets. They're the ones that creating the jobs. They're the ones creating the opportunity. Well, what about being on that side?
Yeah.
Which is what Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a beautiful conversation because so many of us, especially within the Black community, have been taught to be an employee. And it's good. I always tell people this, and it comes up on a lot in conversation, is that we need employees, right? I don't clown an employee because we need employees to power our business. One thing that I'm focused on this year is I'm trying to get out of the mindset of just simply being a CEO, but training other CEOs. And the goal that I've put forth in one of my companies this year is that each of us are no longer going to simply manage the success of the business. Each of us are going to create the success. And if you're not essentially contributing to the bottom line, AKA also contributing to the success of the company that you want to manage, then unfortunately, this isn't the place for you. Because the goal is I want people to come into the company learning how to lead their own company or to lead a vertical within their company well. Every founder is not the CEO, right? So as long as you're capable of learning some type of value or benefit from this experience to contribute to your own goals and aspirations, that's what I'm focused on. Because of the times of being fired, because of the times of my boss saying I couldn't go to a personal development conference, that's important to me. It contributes to your success. So why wouldn't I do it? So
that led to another thing that made me want to leave was the freedom.
Yeah.
I didn't like having to be there at a certain time, leave at a certain time, all that sort of thing. It grated on me, right? If I wanted to go to lunch for 2 hours, I wanted to go to 2. I didn't want to have to rush back. Nope. But that's what you had to do when you were there. Now, don't get me wrong. We work on weekends. We had a project. We had to get out. We worked late if we had to work out. And I enjoyed working late because I was part of the team trying to get things done.
Yeah.
That camaraderie with corporate America of trying to make sure your project comes out like it's supposed to come out. Okay, but when that's over with and we don't have that much work to do.
Yeah.
What's the big deal if I come in at 9 instead of 8, or if I leave at 4 instead of 5, or I go to lunch for an hour and a half versus an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't like that lack of freedom. So that got to me as well. So I understand.
Is there any moment that you almost feel bad or you regret pursuing electrical engineering and computer programming compared to now? Like now you're focused on insurance products, financial products, real estate, etc., compared to an electrical engineer degree or electrical engineering career path or computer programming. Do you ever feel guilty that you chose that initially compared to what you're doing now?
Not at all. Well, because I went with what was open to me. And you got to realize my parents weren't professional. Oh, you didn't know that. My parents weren't professionals. Mom was a receptionist. My dad was a letter carrier at the post office. So me going to get a professional degree, they didn't have degrees. My sister and I were the first ones to get the degree. So that was a step up. And that's what we thought. Education was the key to, that's what they always taught us. That's the key to success. But now once you get out there and you find out things are different, there's more out there even than this, you have a choice whether you want to pursue it or not. So now whether I regret it or not, I don't regret going for that. No, not at all. Let me just answer that question. No.
Okay. Let's focus on the retirement planning aspect now.
Right.
CNBC gave a statistic, and the statistic was that 34% of entrepreneurs have no retirement plan in place. 34%. The second statistic that they gave they gave a reason why the 34% don't have a retirement plan in place, and it's because of insufficient income from their businesses. So folks just ain't got enough money coming in to contribute towards retirement. So because of your passion and your current skill set to offer these financial products, what are the options for entrepreneurs? Like if I'm a part of the 34%, I don't have enough income coming into my business to support a retirement plan. What are my options? Am I SOL? Am I down on my luck? Will I be down on my luck at 65, 70? What are the options?
Yeah, that's a tough thing to address. But let me start this before I address that. The crisis that we're going through a retirement crisis in America right now.
Okay.
A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it on the news too much, but it's because lack of preparation. And even the people who have jobs at corporate America, they're having the same crisis as the entrepreneurs are having. And I actually experienced it it started to happen when I got my job in the 1980s, right? Because everybody used to have pension plans. Like my mom lived on my dad's pension plan until she was 99 years old, but he had a pension with the federal government because he was a letter carrier and he worked enough years where she got a check the rest of her life, added to her Social Security. You know, she wasn't even using that much of the money. She didn't have a lavish lifestyle, so she could live comfortably, right? But he had a pension. Now corporations, they phased out pensions, and it started when I started working. When I started at Hughes Aircraft, I had a pension. It was in my benefits package. Shortly after I started working, all of a sudden I get this letter saying, "Oh, we're phasing this pension out, but you got this thrift savings plan," which I had as well, where you put in money, they would match, all that sort of thing. So they said, "Well, we're getting rid of this. We're just going to give you guys a check and cash you out." Well, I found out later they did that because people were living longer, they're paying their medical and all that sort of thing. And they started these 401k plans. The tax code for the thrift savings plan was 401(K), right? So they came up with these plans, and these plans were not a defined benefit plan like a pension, where you're going to get your benefit as long as you work a certain number of years. This was a defined contribution plan. We're going to you put in, we'll put in, and then when you leave, you take your money and go, you make it happen, live off of what you can, manage it, the whole 9 yards. Before, the corporation managed it, and they guaranteed a certain check. Right now, all of a sudden, you got to manage it. Well, people aren't prepared to do that. 95% of people aren't prepared for that. They can't do that, or they don't do it. They're worried about their kids' baseball games. They're worried about the groceries. They're worried about their new car. They're worried about where they're going on vacation. They don't want to manage this plan. And then it became market-based. The stock market got involved. They said Wall Street got involved. They said, well, we want to manage these plans for you. Let us do it. Pay us to do it. And so the corporation said, okay, we'll pawn this out to you so you can handle it for us. We'll pay the fees or whatever it costs to do it. You manage this for our clients or for our employees. But now you're involved in the market. The market goes up and down, as you know. So imagine in 2008, when a person in, say, 2006, 2007, they're getting ready to retire, they have a certain amount of money in their plan. All of a sudden, the market drops 40%. And there's nothing you can do about it because this money's not guaranteed. It's going to go up with the market and down with the market. And now you can't depend on that anymore. And so all you got is a Social Security check, right? Social Security's been there. But now there's certain factions of the government that want to take that away, believe it or not, right? Which, as an entrepreneur, you contribute to that just like the people who have a job contribute to that.
Yep.
So that's like the base plan. Anything else you do should be on top of that to determine your lifestyle. So, and you should try to have at least 3 sources of income when you retire. Well, that's the base one because that's the one that's mandatory with the government. And you have to build the other 2. So that's the crisis. Now, as far as a entrepreneur's concerned, they're putting their capital at risk to try to leverage into a business that they hope is going to explode and not just take care of them, but actually make them wealthy eventually.
Yeah.
Right. But along the way, they're going through a lot of ups and downs, right? Because they're the ones who are the boss. You have to always put some money away, even if it's $100. You always have to put something to the side for yourself. That's what I talk to entrepreneurs about, but I know they're an obstinate bunch. You guys are an obstinate bunch. And I am too. I guess I am too. But you have to do that because if you don't, 5 years will pass. Business passes fast. Time passes fast. And you're like, well, I made all this money. Where's all the money I made?
Yep.
And then you're like, well, what happened? So you have to follow the 10, 20% rule. Okay, if you're a Christian, tithe 10%, save 10%. And then you work with the other 80%. So I would start there and say, if that's not reaching your lifestyle, then you got to make some lifestyle adjustments.
And when you say put it away, you mean, are you saying at this point put it into a savings, or are you saying put it so building up? Is this savings account that they're putting away? Is this just a general living expense savings, or is this towards retirement?
You start 2 tiers. The first tier should be emergency fund. That's where you should start.
Okay.
You want to build up to a 3 to 6 month emergency fund.
Okay.
And as an entrepreneur, you need that because if business drops and you still have bills, you want to be able to tap that account to tide you over until you get things going again.
The pandemic should have taught us that very well.
You have to have emergency money, right? 3 to 6 months. Know what it takes for you to last for 3 to 6 months. Start there. Now, once that's established, now you want to start investing. Or you can start at the same time. Put some in that account, some in a long-term account, right? Or you start investing in things. Because then if these accounts build up and you're ready for a next level investment, well, you have the funds to do that. Okay, I want to buy a property for rental. Well, where's the down payment going to come from? Where's the closing costs going to come from? Where's the renovation of that property going to come from? Where's it going to come from? Money you've already put away while you were making money. Now I got emergency fund money that's liquid. And now I have either a longer term account, either a IRA, a mutual fund, a SEP account, or IUL policy, or whatever. You're putting away in something long term that you can have towards your long term savings for when you actually want to slow down and work. People don't retire anymore.
Yeah.
They slow down.
Yeah.
That's another thing you talk about.
Yes.
Retirement is most people, there's some people that are still doing it, but most people these days, because of lack of preparation, they can't stop working. They just have to slow down because they're getting older. And maybe I'll leave that job, but I'll get another job that's less stressful. Now I have the money from this job I used to have, whatever I built up over there. I have my Social Security check, and I have my little side job, my little Walmart job, my little whatever, my little consulting job. Because I'm dealing with real people. I'm telling you this because this is what I deal with when I talk to people all the time. These are the real things that are coming up when I'm actually working with people. I'm not making this up. This is what happens.
Yeah.
So invest 20% off the top. Either some go to the Lord if you're doing, if you're a Christian, and then save the rest. Or if you're not saved, you put the 20% away and start your investment program. Make sure that the first 10% is in safe things like a savings account, money market account, whatever, CDs. And then once you build up money in that, invest in mutual funds, invest in insurance programs, invest in things like that. So they're going to be more risky, but they'll of course give you more return. But you can afford the risk, because if it doesn't work, you're not falling to the floor.
Yeah.
You're going to fall to the next level that you've already built up, and then you just go from there again.
So there's the first thing that I hear, and this is a good segment for a lot of folks who are struggling with whether or not they should invest and what they should invest in. The first thing, I've been hearing this often the last few weeks, although it's common, is make sure you have your living expenses saved up, that emergency fund. Once you have that saved up, and then start considering where the investments go. Here's a question. And I'll get back to a question that I have in my mind in preparation for this conversation. Is I had a lady come up to me a couple nights ago, and she says, Matthew, I have $10,000. She's an older lady. She has active savings account, etc. But she's been wanting to invest in something. She has $10,000. I said she should go put it into real estate. Believe you can go find $10,000 in a program and invest in a $150,000 property somewhere in Utah, Tennessee, something like that. What's that good advice? One. Number two, do you find that she could have either put it in real estate or she could put it into an insurance product? What would you do?
Well, see, the first thing you have to do is you have to do a risk assessment on this person. I don't know if you did that, but that's what I do.
I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Right. So you don't do that. So this is the thing I learned, when I was securities licensed, and I had a securities license and mutual funds and all that sort of thing. Before you offer an investment, you have to assess this person's personality and their appetite for risk. Can they handle it if they put the money in something, you're 10,000 and now 6 months later it's worth 5. It's worth 5,000. It's gone down 50%. Can you handle that? I mean, if that happened, do you have the stomach for that? Because I've seen that happen in stocks I bought, mutual funds I bought, and it always happens when I need the money. If I need the money for something else, like if I have money in a fund or some stock, but I have some real estate over here, and all of a sudden my tenant moves out and I need some more money to cover the cost to fix the property back up. They trash the property. I have to now put in a new toilet, put in a new sink, do all these things, and I have to pay the bill on the mortgage until this happens. Okay, now I need some money out of my emergency fund. Okay, that's gone. Now I need to liquidate some of my investments. Oh, and every time I wanted to do that, maybe it was just bad luck for me. The market wasn't up, it was down. So you got to assess a person's risk. Now, if this lady is a senior, like you said, I don't know if I would tell her to buy real estate, to be honest with you, because there's a lot that goes with that. You have to deal with property managers. She, first of all, got to deal with a mortgage company to buy the property. She got to deal with a realtor, appraiser, title insurance. There's a whole lot that goes into buying real estate, right? Even if it is in another state and it's not as expensive as it is in California. But she could buy an annuity with no risk. She's going to give up some liquidity. So we say, okay, how long are you willing to leave this money in here? That's another thing you do when you do a risk assessment. How long before you need your return on investment? Are you willing to wait 5 years, 3 years, 10 years? How long? Then I know, okay, I can take, if it's a longer term thing, I can take more risk. If it's shorter term, I can't take that much risk. And you need to get this money in case of emergency. Now, see, when you're doing annuities with insurance companies, they want to do suitability. Suitability means let's find out how much other assets this person has, how soon do they need this money, and they're going to make me report all this stuff on the application, and they're deciding now whether they want to take this business or not. They say all money's not good money.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't want your money if you're going to just go and get this money tomorrow because you're upset or you see something crazy on TV and now it's 3 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later, and you want to take the money out. Well, now you got to pay charges surrender charges because you took the money out too soon and you broke the contract. You didn't give us enough time to turn this money over for you. So these are the kind of questions you're going to ask a person. So you want to do risk assessment first.
Okay.
Find out if have you bought a property before? If you want to use your example, you should buy a property. Okay, have you ever bought real estate before? Done it by yourself? You done it with other people?
I did ask her that. I asked her, did she own her home? She says, yes, I own my home.
That's not enough.
Oh, dang it.
That's not enough.
Look, so I would make a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Go seek the advice of a trained professional.
Always on the disclaimer.
Yes.
This is not an offer to sell you anything.
Yes.
This is just two brothers chopping it up.
Yes. Yes. One final question before we begin to close this out, which I believe I've enjoyed this conversation, is what type of financial products are out there for entrepreneurs, even folks like me, financial products that are out there that can help supplement the income?
Supplement.
Yes. Or for example, whether it's financial, we call them insurance products. What are there ways in which I can leverage some of my revenue? Let's say it's 10% of the profit. I leverage 10% of the profit and I put it someplace in order for that money to grow so that I have more money later for either savings, business savings, or business investments. Is there any such thing or anything out there that entrepreneurs can use to supplement their income, financial products or insurance?
Well, let me
products?
just talk about how the IUL could help.
Okay.
Index Universal Life Policy can help an entrepreneur who has substantial amount of money to put in it. They have, $20,000, $30,000, $100,000, whatever. They have to have money to put in the contract. Now, here's why you want to do that, because the bank's only going to pay so much amount of interest.
Yeah.
But the index program, you make money when markets go up, but you don't lose the money when the markets go down.
Ooh.
And the returns are based on the upward movements of the market. And there's usually guaranteed minimum returns, 1-2% in there already. So while the money's sitting, you're making something. But all of a sudden, if the index goes up, let's say you pick the S&P 500 and it goes up 12%, 10%, well, now you're making double-digit returns on that money. Now, let's suppose as an entrepreneur, you need the money.
Mm-hmm.
You need some of the money for something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way the product works, first of all, you have to have a need for the insurance first. That means you have a child, you have a spouse, you have property, you have some reason where if something happens to you, someone's going to get a check. Everybody needs insurance, at least for funeral costs.
Yep.
And we're dealing with a lot of that these days, right? So especially with COVID. So an exorbitant amount of that. So you can leverage these programs. So if a person has $100,000 in their policy, they have a $30,000 business need. Okay, if you had it in the bank, you just withdraw it.
Yeah.
But what if you want your money to still grow? Well, you can do a loan against the value of your account. Instead of you taking your money, use the insurance company's money. They're going to charge you rock bottom interest rates, 3-4% interest on that money. Okay, and you don't have to make payments on it. So if I have $100,000, I need a $30,000. I take a $30,000 loan from the company, leave my $100,000 alone. They're still paying me interest on that money based on the returns of the market or whatever. And now I have the $30,000 to go use for whatever my short-term business need is, right? Because you also have to have a way to put the money back eventually. Because you're going to do that anyway. You have to have a plan for that. But now I'm paying real low interest on somebody else's money. My money's just the collateral. So as a business person, now once I've taken care of what I need to take care of, I made my money back, I put the money back, I paid the insurance company back. Now, all they did is put a lien against my death benefit. So if I have a multiple $100,000 death benefit, let's say it's a $500,000 death benefit, why do I care about a $30,000 lien against that?
Yeah.
That I'm probably not going to die anyway. And by the time I use this money and pay it back, I'll be restored again.
Yeah.
But my money got to grow.
Because that value builds up.
But my 100,000 kept growing like I hadn't taken any money out.
That's nuts.
So let's say that 100,000 happened to make 10%. 10% of 100,000 is $10,000, right? But if I took the $30,000 loan, I only paid 3%. What's the interest? What's the interest on the 3%?
Yeah.
Couple of hundred, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So now,
wait, let's break that down for the audience. So you said 30,000 against 100,000, right? So that's 70,000, but that 100,000 benefit was still gaining 10%,
right?
So it gained $10,000. Yeah. So the 3%
loan interest
on a 30,000,
right?
Okay, so let's break that down. So that's
$900.
$900. Jeez, of interest paid.
Of interest paid, but I made 10,000 on the money I left in there because I didn't use my money; I used theirs. Well, let's say it didn't do 10%. Let's say it only did 5%. Still, I made $5,000, and I paid $900 for the
That's
money
a great
to
exchange.
use somebody else's money. So, but you have to have a short term need. And short term could be like I have a fraternity brother of ours who does property in Maryland. When I say does property, he buys distressed properties or he buys properties that need fixing up. He buys them, puts them under contract, fixes them up, and he sells them eventually. And he has investors that, come into these deals, and he tells them, okay, it's going to take this much money to buy it, acquisition cost, this much money to fix it, this much money to sell it, market and sell it. Here's what our profit's going to be. Got a spreadsheet. He shows them all the. So if you get how much do you want to put into this? Here's how much I need to do this. I need $150,000. And he has investors. Okay, I'm putting up 50. You want to get in? You need 50. You need
syndication.
50. Right.
Yep.
So, and now they know that they're giving him $50,000. He's reporting to them, let them know what he's doing, all this sort of thing. Every now and then they have a meeting where we are with this property. Oh, great, we're done. I put in a new bathroom. I put in a new kitchen. I remodeled all this stuff. I knocked this wall out, opened this up, and they see what he's done. I'm spending the money with the contractors as I'm doing this. Now I'm ready to sell. In fact, I have a real estate friend who used to do my taxes. He does the same thing here in LA. He's very successful doing it. Because there's people that do that, right? That's what they do. They flip properties, right? But they're using other people's money. Suppose you're one of the investors and you have your money in their policy, and you got a couple, you got a nice amount of money in there. You don't want to take your money out of your emergency savings to do it. Well, use other people's money. Let them do it.
Yeah.
And now you can get this done, but you have an exit strategy. You always got to have an exit strategy. When am I going to get my money back? How much am I going to make? So I can knock this loan off. Now I've made a profit. And I can put my profit to use wherever I want to put it.
Back into another investment, whatever it is. Man, this is huge. I love this conversation. I always say this is why the podcast is called I Just Want to Record. Because you're learning so many bits and pieces after every conversation with people in hopes to put it together into a big puzzle at the end. But Cedric Holloman, what has been your greatest contribution to society?
To society?
To society.
That's a big question.
It's a big question.
Well, let me give you two things.
Okay.
Yeah, the first thing, of course, is, being able to preach the gospel every now and then. And I do more teaching than actual preaching, right? Get more opportunities to do that. So actually being able to go through scripture and get into the depths of it, behind the scenes, what's going on, what's going on in the culture, why did these characters react the way they reacted? Understanding, who God is and what is the Trinity? Where do we come up with that? How is that? Where can we go to scriptures to see what this is all about? So actually seeing the light bulbs go off on people's heads when I got it. I understand why we need salvation. I understand what Jesus did on the cross. I understand that that's the apex of history.
Yeah.
We look back to the cross from the future, but before that, they were looking toward it. That's those sort of things. So that's one thing. The other would be actually working with people in their finances and realizing that it's not just a transaction. You're trying to develop a relationship and then showing them that you actually care about how things turn out for them. They listen to you. They don't have to listen to you.
Yeah.
But if you do, you'll be better off.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to listen, but you need to listen. So, and here's why you need to listen. And if you just give me some time to, let's process present so we can have money for the future.
Yeah.
Just spend a little time with me now. Let's put some things in place and you'll be able to see the benefits in the future. But what most people do, they wait till they get older. Now you can't affect the outcome. Okay, you're 62. You want to retire at 65. You only got 3 years for us to affect the outcome. But if you do it in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, now we have some time to affect how things turn out.
Yeah.
And, trying to get that across. Or if it's just an insurance transaction, okay, look, you produced these children. I didn't produce them, you produced them. You're responsible for them. Whether something happens to you or not, you're responsible. If you're here, you get to take care of them. But if you're not here, you still need to leave the money for them.
Yeah.
Now, do you have enough money to take care of this child from now till 18? It costs over $200,000. You can look that up. It costs over $200,000 to raise a child in the United States from 0 to 18. At least that was 10, 15 years ago when I was really focusing on that. Maybe 20 years ago. So it might be even more now. Okay, so you're responsible for that child. So you need enough to leave whoever it is you want to leave the money to. I don't care who you leave it to. Leave it to whoever's going to be responsible that would take care of them like you would.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to do that like you would, by the way.
Yeah.
The other thing now going forward is, my mother lived till she was 99 years old. In the end, she had dementia, right? So, she started forgetting things. She didn't know me right away. I had to give her a few minutes when I walked in the room for her to know who I was. And I had to process that. So now it's the reason why I sell the index policies. I want to make sure they have living benefits for people that will take care of these expenses. Because the older we get, and we're living longer, the older we get, the body starts breaking down.
Yeah.
And we say, we have something that we talk about at our company is that, they're going to make sure you live a long time.
Yeah.
Technology is going to make sure you live a long time, either with drugs or fall out with a heart attack. Somebody's going to come show up with the paddles and put them on your chest and bring you back, right? I know a senior who had a heart attack, drove herself to the hospital, to Kaiser, and you're having a heart attack. And they gave her bypass, and she lived a bypass surgery. She lived another 10 years.
What?
After bypass. Well, she was a tough lady. Very, very tough lady. So that just shows you how tough she was, right?
Yeah.
To do that. And so she drove herself to the hospital. They found out she was having a heart attack. They admitted her to say, you need bypass surgery, call her family and all that. They signed off all the papers. And then they did the bypass. But that bypass added 10 years to her life. So instead of her dying in the 80s, she died in her 90s. Well, if we're going to live that long, it takes money to live that long.
Yep.
And if you start breaking down, let's say you get a cancer diagnosis. Well, it would be nice if you had a policy where if you called them, hey, I had a cancer diagnosis, they say, oh, well, we have a critical illness rider. File a claim and we'll send you a check. We had a gentleman who was a fireman that did business with our company, and he got a real tough cancer diagnosis. He ended up getting a check for $300,000 because he decided he didn't want the cancer rider. He decided to take the terminal illness rider, because the terminal illness works where if they say he's got 2 years or less to live, they'll discount the policy, just give him all the money. Now, he's not dead. And he lived a lot more than 2 years. He lived like 4 or 5 years, but he did eventually. He beat the cancer, but then it came back and he passed away. But he got the $300,000, right? He started with a little marijuana business because, when you're taking chemo, that's something they tell you they want you to smoke to help you with the chemo.
Correct.
And so he decided, well, if I'm going to buy it, I might as well invest in the business. And he invested in someone's dispensary business.
Wow. So he took the 300,000, so he got some money, but started a business to make more money.
More money. And he hired a chef, get his diet right. Now he eventually passed away, but then he had another policy for $1 million his wife got.
Yeah.
So and he had kids, right? So now she didn't have to worry about the house note, didn't have to worry about any of those kind of things. So if you ask me what the contribution would be to develop a relationship with people to the point where they'll like you and trust you enough to give you the information you need, present to them what they need so they can get the help they want. And then convince them to do it. Not everybody does it.
Right.
But you just try and till someone's going to do something.
Somebody's going to do something.
Yeah, someone's going to listen. And sometimes you can't tell the right person the wrong thing at the right time.
Absolutely.
If you talk to enough people, somebody will listen. And then things are happening in our economy and in the world or in their family. Oh, they went to your funeral and said, do I have my stuff together? Yeah. Mama's sick. I have to take care of her. We don't have the resources. That just happened with me as well. A client had to take care of their wife's father. He didn't have the money to do it, so that means they had to help pay for it. But now he wanted a long-term care program for he and his wife because he says, hey, I don't want my family to have to go through what we just went through. So show me what I need to do to give me a program to take care of that. So we searched and we found out what he was looking for.
Certain things remind you of the need.
Exactly. Life
does.
Reminds you of being a responsible adult means you need to plan to take care of yourself.
Cedric, how do people find you? Whether it's a website, social media, how do people find you, and what is a tangible next step for them?
Okay, so I have a brand new website I just set up, futurefinancialconcepts.com, so they can find me there, futurefinancialconcepts.com. Also have a Facebook page with that same name, Future Financial Concepts, so they can find me through there. They can message me through there. Either one of those ways. The next step would be either start working on your own budget. First of all, see where your money's going. If you want to just start in your little cocoon of your own home, look at what's coming in, look at what's going out. Look at what's going out, and just to see, am I overextended? Do I need to make some adjustments so I can have some money to put away? Maybe I'm spending too much on Starbucks. Maybe I'm spending too much on the movies. Maybe I'm spending too much on vacations. Instead of going on twice a year, maybe we should go once and save some of that money. Start thinking about lifestyle changes, and also try to get out of your debt as quickly as possible.
That's good.
Your credit card debt, try to pay that down or pay it off as soon as you can. And you realize, hey, if I don't have these credit card bills, that's a lot more money that I can invest.
That's right.
Now, okay, I got to share this with you.
Yes,
Matthew. How did the devil rule the world?
By the horns.
You're right. Okay, so
is that true? Is that right?
I don't know.
Oh.
Let's just give you an example of how he possesses people financially.
Okay.
So let's say you're going to
he grabbed it by the horns. I'm just kidding.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So you go to the grocery store and you see these magazines. So you're in the line. You got to wait. So that's why those magazines are there. So you can pick them up and thumb through them. You see an article, Better Sex Today.
Yeah.
How to get a spouse. All stuff that's salacious that we don't want to. Now, while you're flipping to that article, it's always in the back. So you got to look at all the ads. So you stop at the car ad, stop at the cigarette ad, you stop at the furniture ad, and this is creating desire. So you get your groceries, you get in the car, you turn on the radio. Just for you to listen to the music you want to listen to, unless you got satellite, you got to listen to the ads, right? Buy this car, get these clothes. We got to sell at Macy's. We got to sell at Nordstrom's. More desire is created. So you get home, you open your mailbox, you got your magazines there, you got your flyers, more stuff to cause you to want to consume.
Yeah.
And then in there, you see a pre-approved credit card application.
Yes.
He says, $5,000, just sign your name. You already pre-approved. So they say, yeah, I'm worthy of this. So they sign and they send it in, they get their card. And unfortunately, when they get the card, they don't look at the $5,000 as a limit. They look at it as a goal. In other words, how fast could I charge you $5,000, right? And so by the time you're getting closer to the limit, another one comes. You get to the limit on that one, another one comes. And you say, well, I could pay these minimum payments, but the minimum payments are designed for you never to finish. Minimum payment of 2% of the balance, 3% of the balance is designed, it'll take you 20, 30 years to pay it off. Now, thanks to the Obama administration, this is one thing Obama did when he was in office. he made sure that they put on the credit card statements, if you pay the minimum, they have to tell you how long it's going to take. That wasn't there before. He mandated that by law where they have to put that on the statement. Before, they're trying to keep you ignorant, so you just keep paying the minimum and never be done. So now you got all these minimums, and you got a card. So now the devil has you because you're in debt. Now you can't invest as an entrepreneur or a corporate American person or just an individual because you're paying all these bills for all the stuff that you bought that you don't even use anymore. And then you're trying to keep up with the Joneses next door, all that sort of thing, right? So another thing I think about doing is maybe cutting back on your exposure to too much media, even social media now. I noticed my Facebook stream now is full of ads.
Yep.
At first it wasn't.
Nope.
Now it's added. I can't look at your post until I look at 3 ads first.
That's right.
Because that's how Facebook makes money, right? So exposure to the desire you have to be able to manage your own desire. Do you really need this particular card just because this rapper who's on this video has it? He didn't really own it. They leased it to, or they rented it to us for the video.
Yep.
And all the bling he's got on, he don't own it.
Nope.
They put it on him for the video.
Yep.
And now he owes the record company because they bought this stuff or they rented this stuff for him. And they pay for the video to shoot and all these people to be there.
Props.
So when he starts to make money, they say, oh, yeah, you remember that money you owe us from the beginning? So it might take them 2 or 3 CDs or 2 or 3 projects before they make enough where they can keep the money.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of people who are in the entertainment business end up broke. Nobody pulled their coattail because we can't manage our desires. So you want to know another thing I try to do? Talk to people about stuff like that. Right? Now, most people don't listen, and I'm having a hard enough time. I got to manage my own.
Yeah.
Right? Because
for sure.
I'm thinking I should have more. I should do.
Yep.
Now, actually, I want less. The older I get, I'm like, why do I need all this? I don't need this stuff to be happy. Relationships like we have, that makes you happy, not stuff.
Yes.
The stuff wears out, it gets old, it goes out of fashion, but the relationships are more important than anything else. So I would think those would be contributions that I've made along the way, right? Teaching the scriptures and then working with people in their finances to a point where I can develop a relationship with them to share some of these things I'm sharing with you.
This is huge. Cedric Holloman, thank you. Thank you so much, sincerely, for contributing so much value. And again, I love these conversations because, again, they're puzzle pieces to a bigger picture. And that's my hope, that as people listen to the I Just Want to Record podcast, that they take their puzzle piece, see which one matters the most to them to put together their big puzzle piece. But again, thank you so much for contributing to the I Just Want to Record podcast.
Doing a great job with this, which is why I wanted to come on. I want to be a part of what you're doing because you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the I Just Want to Record podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that we can inspire more people just like you. Until next time, I'm Matthew Newman, aka Mr. Catch on Fire, signing off.